opening statement. It is not an argument. It's not telling you what to do. It is letting you know what we expect the evidence to be in the case. We expect the evidence in this case to conclude sometime on Friday. What's today? Tuesday. So opening statements is sort of a roadmap of what we expect the evidence to be. We do not expect that there will be evidence, specific evidence, that my client, Celeste Owens, killed Amari. They're both blamed for it, and you will ultimately have the indictment that was read to you, that has been referred to, out with you ultimately when you go out and deliberate the case. And you'll actually see the 21 counts in the indictment, wherein they're both charged in 19 of them together. Because I submit to you, there will not be specific evidence in this case that pinpoints that my client delivered the fatal blow or blows to Amari. Now, I'm not an idiot. Standing up here and talking about the death of a child, purported cruelty to children for the two other children, it's heart-wrenching. I get that. It's a tragedy. I get that. But you all, as the judge just swore you in, gave you the final oath, you all are sitting there because you all told us over and over again that you were fair and impartial, right down the middle, not leaning towards one side or the other in the case. Although, as you've heard from Judge Duncan, there's a presumption of innocence that surrounds and protects my client until it is overcome by evidence sufficient to convince you all beyond a reasonable doubt. Not talk, not what we surmise, not opinion, but evidence. There is not, I submit to you in this case, ladies and gentlemen, there is not going to be any specific evidence presented to you all that my client delivered any fatal blow to Amari. Now, the charges are broken up, and I know they were read to you. You don't have them in front of you. You don't have the indictment. But counts 1 through 4 deal with the allegations of murder and felony murder. And Ms. Nazam is right. They're both charged, Brittany Hall, and you want to use the word mother as it pertains to Brittany Hall, who was my client's, we expect the evidence to be, girlfriend at the time, but we expect the evidence to be she, not Celeste, was their primary caregiver. Mom, Brittany Hall, who's not here, not on trial, but her name is going to be all over the place. These are her 3 children. She's indicted in this case. She's charged individually and as a party to the crime, purportedly with Celeste, of killing her own daughter. And so when the police come in and testify, when witnesses come in and testify, when videos are played, recordings are played, photographs are put up on the screen for you all to see, I ask you to please keep that in mind. Brittany's not on trial here this week. No, Celeste is. But in going over the photos, the recordings, the evidence, the statements, the testimony that comes in this case, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Celeste killed Amari. That's counts 1 through 4. And I submit to you, the evidence is not going to be there that she did. We expect Dr. Downs to come in and testify Friday morning, the end of this week. That cause of death was blunt force injuries, malnutrition. Well, again, you're going to hear evidence we expect that it was Brittany Hall, the mom, who was their primary caregiver, charge of dispensing food, giving them food, and was also their primary disciplinarian. And you'll see videos of Ms. Hall, I expect, kicking, brutalizing, stomping on, hitting her own children on the floor in that motel room. Only the allegations are, as it pertains to Jakari and Zaire, that this occurred in July at the Congress Motel, which I think you heard is now closed. So those are the allegations pertaining to the other two children, that you get the cruelty to children counts. Charges with Amari are from November. There's going to be supposition, there's going to be opinion, there's going to be guesswork. But ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I'm going to come back, whether it's Friday or Monday of next week, and ask you, which I'm sure you will do, that you've paid attention to what's gone on in this courtroom over the last 3 or 4 days by the time I come back to you all, and return a verdict of not guilty as it pertains to Celeste Owens. Now, as the lawyers go, we'll turn our podium this way. The witnesses come up here on the witness stand, swear an oath to tell the truth. Jurors don't get to ask questions. So it's our job as the lawyers, yes, we're advocates for our side, but we have to ask those questions that we perceive are obviously relevant and that you want to know the answers to. So at the end of the case, when we come back before you in what's called closing arguments, we can state our positions based upon the answers to those questions that we pose to them and the evidence in the case. When I come back, I'm going to ask you to hold the state to their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenwald. All right, just stay ready to call its first witness.
Yes, Judge. I think we did discuss potentially some stipulations.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant and the state have agreed to the following matters. They are stipulated as fact for evidentiary purposes during the course of the defendant's jury trial. Number one, on November the 21st of 2021, police were called to the hometown studios in Gwinnett County, Georgia, in reference to a missing 8-year-old named Amar, M-A-M-A-I-R, parentheses, Amari Hall, hereinafter the victim, close parentheses. Defendant Celeste Owens and co-defendant Brittany Hall both told police that they woke up that morning to find the victim missing. The police were provided a description and photograph of the victim to aid in their search. 2. Defendant Celeste Owens was asked to voluntarily come to police headquarters and speak with police as the victim had still not been located. During the interview, the defendant told police about her whereabouts during the time the victim would have gone missing. Officers were able to confirm the defendant was lying and she was arrested for false statements. 3. Officers obtained a search warrant for the defendant's phone, and an extraction of the device resulted in locating her internet search history along with videos of the victim and her 2 siblings. From the extraction, officers were led to obtain several surveillance videos from the hometown studios, a local U-Haul vendor, a Citgo gas station, and a nearby Family Dollar store. 4. Officers also obtained images from flock cameras of a U-Haul that police confirmed was rented by the defendant. The U-Haul van was seen on flock cameras driving in the direction of where the victim's body was later found. 5. The victim's body was found naked with garbage bags wrapped around it and the victim was located in a wooded area in DeKalb County on November 22nd, 2021. 6. On November 23rd, 2021, an autopsy was performed by Dr. Downs of the Gwinnett County Medical Examiner's Office. The cause of death was determined to be multiple blunt force injuries to the victim. The manner of death was determined to be homicide. The victim also suffered from malnutrition. 7. The defendants were charged in the bill of indictment as parties to a crime to numerous counts including malice, murder, and cruelty to children. The defendants were subsequently severed after a motion filed by Brittany Hall's attorney was granted. 8. Video surveillance of the hometown studios was viewed by the initial officers on scene. The footage was from an hour or more prior to the police arriving and did not show co-defendant Brittany Hall walking around the hotel as was reported by her. The surveillance also did not show the defendant or the victim during that time. This testimony will be admitted by the officer who the information was relayed to. 9. Statements made by the severed co-defendant Brittany Hall are contained in reports and body camera of the responding officers and describe the circumstances surrounding the victim's disappearance. These out-of-custody statements explain the conduct of the officers and therefore will be allowed in for that purpose. These statements would involve a description of the victim, a time frame of the last time she was seen, the items the victim would have taken with her, that the victim was homeschooled and that was on medications for seizures that she took with her since the medications were not in the room. 10. Similarly, co-defendant Brittany Hall eventually led officers close to the area where the victim was found. The state will solicit testimony from officers regarding the information provided by her for the purpose of explaining the officer's presence at the location. Those statements should be admitted. 11. The quote, "be on the lookout," unquote, or BOLO, generated by law enforcement containing information about the circumstances surrounding the victim's disappearance, as well as a photograph of the victim, should be admitted. 12. There are no issues or objections to a business certification form provided by an authorized custodian of records for the following in lieu of live testimony. Surveillance video from hometown studios for the relevant time frame. Receipts for room rental at the hometown studios for the relevant time periods. Surveillance video from A1 Mini Storage / U-Haul rental location. Receipt and contract for the U-Haul van rental in the name of the defendant. Surveillance video from the Dollar General located at 7050 Jimmy Carter Boulevard for the relevant time period. Receipt from the same Dollar General above. Surveillance video from the Citgo located near Stone Mill Way for the relevant time period. 13. The flock images obtained through detectives are admitted into evidence through the testimony of law enforcement officers who ran and or received the images. 14. Counsel waives a Daubert hearing as it relates to the testimony of medical examiner Dr. J.C. Downs and his status as an expert witness in the field of forensic pathology. 15. Photographs taken of the U-Haul van with Arizona license plate AL06742, taken by crime scene investigator Kay Cochran at Gwinnett County Police Headquarters, will be admitted without the testimony of said crime scene investigator, as foundation will be stipulated to for those photographs.